Good evening, everyone. Um, right, let's get into it, shall we? I'm going to talk about a little tool I've been carrying around with me. I was going to maybe shoot an entire gear video update, but I've kind of not got everything on me. I've just gotten in, and you know what it's like. You get through the door, and you put this down, you put that down, you take this off, and before you know it, half the stuff's missing. But still got this on me, so we'll talk about this. I've been testing out this little spanner. It's quite good. As you can see, it opens very wide. That is my hand, right, and I can fit 4 fingers in there, no problem. That was the main selling point to me, um, in why I bought it. It's manufactured by Today's Tools. I bought it from Tool Station. It was fairly inexpensive. It was about 15 or 20 pounds, if I remember. That's usually how much I'll pay for a spur of the moment purchase. Doesn't close all the way though. That's about as closed as you can get it. So you can't use it on your, on your drain offs or anything like that unless you get a chunky one. But that's all right because I always carry my little backhoe as well on my little key ring. Look at that, invented by Backhoe, made in Sweden. So basically, from that distance onwards, I can basically get onto anything else. And that's sort of my goal, as you'll learn if you want, if you watch it. If I manage to make it, if I manage to make my big systems update video on where I am, the whole philosophy behind it is having something to be able to get onto virtually any kind of plumbing fitting I want, to be able to undo it. And the second part of this is either I get another one of these spanners or I get a pair of grips or something, so then I can start doing stuff up. But I probably won't get another pair of these just because I don't know if you've seen it yet, but look at these jaws. See if I can show them to you here. These jaws, you can see they've got all chowder marks in them, and that's really the only drawback of this spanner, which is also the major advantage of it. It's lightweight. This thing weighs virtually nothing. It feels like a packet of crisps or a toy when you pick it up. Um, And it's not to say that it's particularly fragile. I have put quite a bit of force on it. The metal, the alloy, they say it's some special hardened aluminium alloy. It's not particularly hard, but it is quite strong. You can really put some force on this. I've put a bloody foot on this and stood on it to undo something. And what you'll find, especially if you're doing a lot of really high torque work with it, is that your fittings, what you're actually working on, will bite into the spanner jaw itself and start chewing it up here. And that's what's happened. And so I don't think I'll get another one of these. And I was kind of debating in my mind like how I would fix this. From a design point of view, I would put steel liners, just hardened steel liners. You just screw straight into the aluminium. Because I was going to do that. I was like, oh, I could make some custom steel liners for the jaws on these spanners. And then I thought, what's the point? I could go and buy something more expensive that does the same thing if I can find it. If I can't find a spanner that does that, then that'll be what I'll do. And what I'll do is I'll just make um, two basically trough-shaped, U-shaped pieces of steel, the same width as the jaw, that fits over. I'll drill and tap 2 holes in it, and just put 2 little, M6 screws going into this soft aluminium. And if they slip off, they slip off. But I don't think 2 little screws are gonna, it's not. If you think about it, it should stay on because the force, it's not it's not a shearing force, it's a compressive force. So, a compressive force isn't going to shear off a screw like that, is it? It's when you're pulling on it. But, if you do this up, there's no way that you're going to be able to pull. There's no situation unless you intentionally put the jaws, the jaw liners in a vise that you're going to be able to pull those off. So, bottom line, that's one solution. But the real solution really is just to buy a better set of spanners. Because that's what happens. And what will happen is when that cuts into your fitting, I found this when I was making up radiators, that when it cuts into the fitting, the spanner just goes tight. It locks up on the fitting, and you can't get it off. And and you're wobbling it, and it's wobbling the entire thing. And you'll try and turn this, and it just won't move because it's all under tension at that point. It's like you've driven a wedge, like a wooden wedge in there or something. You know, it's the elasticity of the metal is what, you know, will stop it from coming through, and you really do have to whack it about. And that's how you end up mauling these up. You know, you'll end up making the damage worse. So it is a bit of a pain. It's only on the smaller stuff though, like on larger stuff like pump valves, even just 22 mil, 28 mil stuff. You can get onto waste, you know, compression waste fittings with this very easily in places where a lot of grips won't, and because of the, you know, the where it is, you can't really get a good grip on it with your hand. But because you got those little nubs, you know, on like a you know, the nut on a sink trap or something, you can put this on there and actually crank it down. And also, interestingly enough, I've used this on gate valves because, you know, the big red turn head. You can get this around the turn head, and you can just crank it down. It's a lot better than using the grips and trying to come at it from the front. You can actually get onto the gate valve from the side and just turn that shit. So you're basically, you know, giving yourself a bigger lever to do that, and that's what these are really good at. It's more so for big stuff. When you start using it to make a 15 mil or half-inch tail into a radiator, that's when you'll start shredding these. But big stuff, it's okay. And in general, in carrying it and using it over a period of about, I want to say 4 months. It might be less than that, but I think it's 4 months. The actual size of this, like, you know, forget for a moment that the jaws are all chewed up. If this was made of steel or some fictional unobtainable material that is, you know, this sort of weight but doesn't chew up, right, this size is perfect for most situations. I mean, it is a bit big as a spanner, and you will, I think I encountered two times that I couldn't undo something, and that was one of them was a plug on the old copper waste. It had like a rodding eye on it, an old star one, and it just had two little things coming up. And because the angle it was at, like I could close this narrow enough to get onto it. Because the angle it was at, I had this sticking out, and it was against a wall on the side of a house, and this was sticking out, so I couldn't force it that way, and then I turned it around the other way. And obviously this dimension here, if you're getting on something small, and you see we're going back to that, you know, the spanner's good unless you want to get onto something small. Basically, whatever way I put the spanner on, because I only had 2 points on the fitting to get onto, it was basically like this. Like if you imagine my fingers are the sort of nubs on the rodding eye. All right, whatever way I turn it, right, because there's only like two possible positions for the spanner. Whatever way it is, it's got a huge piece of metal sticking out the side, and that was sticking into the wall, so I wasn't able to get onto it properly, and I actually had to climb down and get a pair of grips. So, you know, in terms of the shape of this, like the general size and the shape, it's mostly perfect. You'll run into a couple of things, but apart from that, it'll tackle most situations, and that's kind of what I was going for. When I picked this up, I thought I want to be able to undo, you know, the smallest, tiniest drain off right up to the biggest pump valve and waste pipe fitting that I'll encounter just with the stuff I have on me. Not got to go get a tool bag. You know, if it's something simple like a block trap, you're not got to lug a big tool bag up and just try and, you know, just to do a simple job. You want to be able to tackle as much as you can by having the stuff on you. Which, you know, leads to a much more interesting discussion about how I, you know, employ my tools now. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing, but you see, because I've upgraded now to a bigger tool bag instead of that little handy tool roll, I'm then less inclined to get it out because it's heavier, it's slower interaction, and so thus I've ended up carting a lot of the tools around on my person. And as you can see, I've got a nice sweet little gun holster for my spanner here that lives on my belt, and I'm going to do a full video on the belt because I've changed it. I've changed the actual belt over to a different one. These pouches are the same. They've got my slices in. I don't know if you can see them. Don't know what the field of view is like on the camera. I've not used it for a while. But basically, you know, I've still got all the splices on me, but I've managed to cram in some extra items. But tonight, you know, tonight's video is mainly about the today's tools, you know, wide jewel spanner, and just the general wide jewel spanner thing in general. They're a bit more useful than you'd think. But of course, the ultimate spanner that I want to get hold of is the Baco wide jaw 8-inch spanner, because it's just, it's wide enough to get onto most of the 28mm stuff, and yet it's small enough to fit into most tight spaces. It's the real Goldilocks. The wide jaw one isn't quite on the Goldilocks. It's a little bit big. You'll run into one or two situations where it's just a bit big, but that one truly is, like, apart from like waist fittings and 35mm pipe, it's fine. If you've got a 35mm compression fitting, a little 8-inch spanner is not gonna do it. It's not gonna happen. So yeah. So I hope you found that a little bit interesting. I know it's a bit of a short video and a bit of a non-video. I mean, I'm not really doing anything. I'm just sort of talking about this, and I keep putting it in my pocket and taking it out again, just to try and keep my hands busy. Rocking the gloves. These are the thin gloves. I'll get into gloves another time, and what the situation is with gloves, because it's kind of gotten out of hand now. But yeah. Only other thing to note, it says 16 to 68mm, but this, opening this up, this goes wider than 68mm, and it did so from the factory. If we actually measure it, it's wider than 68mm. Look at that. It's 70mm. It's 70mm. So what's that about? And then the narrowest it goes, it's less than 16. I know that. Well, that's the narrowest it goes, and it could be off a little bit, but that's like 10mm. You look at that on the tape measure. So like this on the side is just complete gibberish. I don't know who examined this and thought, oh, that's the advertised size. I mean, they could have got away with 70 to 12. Because you do want to advertise the absolute maximum, because that's the selling point, isn't it? The absolute maximum you can get in there, and that is, that's quite a big jaw. You can get onto most stuff. And also, I like the length of it. You can get quite a good bit of purchase if you're just trying to, if you're trying to use your spanner for something that you shouldn't be. If you're trying to get onto, like, that metal stuff that they put in the airing cupboards, the stuff the electricians use. Oh, what's it called? The bonding clips. If you want to get onto that and just get twisted off the pipes, what you do is you'll stick these jaws through, and you can just twist this whole spanner around, and you can get the earth bonding out if you're like doing something like stripping out a load of pipe work. If you're stripping out like a big cylinder or something like that, you can just stick that in there, twist it, and ping, and it all comes straight off. And just general manipulation. There's stuff like in the lofts, they put a lot of this steel girdering in and stuff now, and you can kind of, like, if you just need to nibble a little bit off to get a bit of pipe through, you can literally stick it on the end, and now you've got basically the world's tightest vise on the end of a, what is extensively a piece of metal, and you can just, you've got a big lever, give me a lever big enough and I'll move the world. And that's basically what you do. You just take it and you twist that up, and the longer the jaws are, the better it is at doing that. Not so much with this particular spanner, but I have got rid of bonding clips with this spanner. It's the old. It goes back to the old thing. Amateurs talk tactics and pros talk logistics. It just happens to be like whatever I'm presented with now, I just use whatever's in my hand to deal with it. And if it's not quite the tool for the job, if it's not quite the right way to do it, like I'm at the point now where I'm like trying to gain every second I can to get things done, that's I've kind of stopped giving a shit, which I suppose is logical, really. I mean, I'd love to have the time in the world to just carry everything on me and just do this and do that. But we're getting to the point now where I'm trying to like get to the bottom of the barrel and kind of hollow out and make do and mend and get every last second with my on the job to get it done, which is you know, it's not the best place to be, but I won't be in that situation for long. I kind of want to get into, you know, like right tool for the right job again, and actually having time to do everything. Um, you know, this is getting on a bit more to, you know, about my personal situation. You know, don't let your personal problems become tool problems. Well, they kind of do. You know, because I've reached the point. You know, everything's interconnected. You can tell a lot about a person by, you know, their tools and their equipment. You can tell. You can kind of get an idea of what's going on in their head. I mean, look at this room. All right, it's a mess. Right, it's a mess. Like, why are all these jelly sweets out? And you know, that's a good metaphor for my life. It's getting deep. I only wanted to talk about the spanner, but it's getting deep. So I think we'll leave it there. On the whole, it's okay spanner, but it's kind of the fit and finish in the metal. It's not there. It is not Nutty Gentleman approved. I would never approve a tool that wasn't 110%, you know, better than life, makes your life 100 times better. Nah, none of that. It's not the nylon belt. You know, it's not like this. You know, complete rock your world sort of item. Nah, it's okay. It's a 9 out of 10. I can't really, you know, represent a complex intellectual opinion with a number, but I'll try. 9 out of 10. You know, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It's okay. It's passable. It won't shit the bed unless you do real heavy work with it. The only other thing that there is to say is this hole here. I mean, I know the main girder that they've put into this casting is doing all the weight, you know, not all the weight, taking all the stress. You know, as you're pulling it backwards and forwards, it's taking all the shearing stress out of these two bits of metal. But quite honestly, would it have, you know, broke the bank to just make this a filled-in piece, so it's got more material there to resist the, you know, the urge to snap clean off on a job? Because I bet that's how this thing dies. I bet the jaws, you know, I've complained about the jaws for 10 minutes solid, right? But I bet how this dies is, you know, I try and turn something that's too big, and this lever's too short, and I put like a, you know, bit of bloody pipe or conduit on the end to twist it, and that, you know, that's my prediction. That's what will finish this thing off. Oh, I almost forgot as well. Another advantage to it being made of this soft, malleable aluminium is that it doesn't rust. That's right. You can immerse this thing in salt water, and it won't go orange. It won't get all crusty. That's probably the only good side. I mean, it will break on you, and it won't live. You know, it's kind of a catch-22 because the material it's made out of is not very durable, so you won't have it long enough. The same time, you know, you won't have it the same amount of time you would a steel spanner for it to have rusted in that time, if that makes any sense. Like, by the time a steel spanner starts to rust from general neglect, this thing is probably already broken. You know, and you've probably already bought another one. And, you know, in a way that's good, but in a way it's kind of bad. I mean, there's only so many recycled Coke cans you can make spanners out of before, you know, people start to realise that it's not a venture and, you know, stop making the bloody things. And I'd rather have, if it's up to me, I'd rather have a tool that I'll have forever, and I can say it's mine, than just a throwaway item. But there you go. That's another thing to talk about. It's always good to consider the material. The actual worm in this spanner is steel. It's like some sort of chrome vanadium sort of pot metal steel, and then interestingly enough, they put what looks like bathroom silicone in where the screw is, or glue or something. So I don't actually know if you can actually take it out or whether it's just a pin and they've just glued it in. But look at that. Look at that. It's just sort of glue in there. The tape grips are my own modification, obviously. I mean, you can't carry something with you every day without fiddling with it and trying to pimp it out. You know, just to stop yourself from smashing your head against the wall, smashing your head against the wall every time you pick the damn thing up. So yeah. So all in all, the takeaway is it's okay, but you know, if you don't need it, don't buy it. It's not a spur. It's not a you know, spur of the moment must have. Like, get it now before they run out, sort of the deal. But if you don't have a wide jaw spanner and you just want something to put in your toolkit you know, just to sort of get you out of a pinch, sort of light use, you know, like the once in a blue moon where you need to get onto like a really big nut. Actually, I don't know if this will go around an immersion heater. Let's check that now. That's the one thing I didn't test. So we'll test that now. Here's an immersion heater. In fact, I can pretty much say it's not going to get round it, but we'll try it. No, can't get round an immersion heater. So you can't use it for that. But you can get round a heating pump valve with it. I know that. I have tested that. But not the immersion, eh? No. I'm not actually going to undo my immersion heater, like it's all full of water. And I need to have a shower. So, you know, it was a little drum roll moment, like, will it make it? But no. No way. You need to get an immersion spanner to do that with. But it's not far off, actually. If you look at that, another 25 mil. It could have got around that. I mean, you probably wouldn't be able to turn the bloody thing because this spanner is too short. And immersion heaters are usually in so tight that you need an immersion spanner as long as your arm. Or just a really big, strong person at the other end of it and not a little minstrel like me. But, yeah. But for most other situations, anything up to 70 millimeters you can get round. So you could keep it in the bag as a sort of get out of a pinch, get out of a tight situation with sort of tool, and I think it would fare fairly well. To be carried on you all day, every day, it's only a matter of time. It's not if it breaks, it's when. It's not durable, and that's why it's not Nutty Gentleman approved. So that's it. That really is it this time. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that informative. In the future, I want to get one of these basically, but made out of steel and better and wider, so I can get on an immersion heater, obviously. Nah, it doesn't really matter if it's wider or not, but same sort of profile, same sort of shape. The shape is good. The idea is good. It's just the execution that I don't like. So yeah, that's my plan, to upgrade this with something better as I go along. That's the whole philosophy behind everything. Either replace it like for like or with something better. And yeah, so that's my thoughts on the wide jaw aluminium spanner. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it informative, and it gives you something to think about on your own tools, what you carry on you, what you leave in the bag. And I will be coming out with the October, hopefully before it becomes November, EDC update, which would be kind of interesting because it would be kind of the end of me just like working flat out, and then after that you're going to see my requirements change again, and I'm going to be able to take stock of the situation and work at a more civilized pace rather than just slogging it out each day. So there we are. This has been me, James, and goodbye and good luck.